Now, meanwhile, now that I have gotten whatchamacallit, the divine ember a little bit out of order. Now we're going to get back on what the game sort of considers to be the critical path. And it's kind of neat that the game would let me wander so deep off of what its critical path is. So after we beat the gargoyles, we got that key that was we got the basement key, and we're told to go back to the Great Bridge and use it, right? Oh. And that will lead us down to Lower Undeadburg. So now I'm basically just fighting my way back through this area. And we'll blast this guy, because this never gets old. I love doing this. Because, honestly, the first time I played this game, that particular Baldur Knight was sort of a sticking point for me. Ow. Guy fell on me. I had a lot of trouble beating that guy. Whoops. Alright. Alright. Oh shit, right, there's no rally mechanic in this game. That was pretty funny. Man, I really got sucked into Bloodborne a lot here. Because Bloodborne 2, you can sort of get away with running past the enemies a lot quicker. Now the other thing is I do have the shortcut that goes back down to the Firelink Shrine, but I don't want to use that just yet. I want to show you where the game wants us to go now. Because ultimately the path that the game wants us, and we're just going to do it a little bit more carefully than we did last time. Back attacks never get old. Alright. Alright, let's be a little bit more cautious here now. There's bonfires on the way, so there's no reason not to burn the spells. Sort of rushing through the area now. There we go. I'm sorry, did you order the lightning with a heaping side of overkill? Whoa, I almost landed in that fire. And I went... Holy shit! All of that! Calibrion is saying, that reminds me, do you think there's any intent in the blood vial farming in Bloodborne to enforce a rest period when you're running up against a wall versus a boss? I did bring that up in my last playthrough of Bloodborne, and I think that if it was intentional, it was a really dumbass decision. Okay? Because already... I mean, you know, it's entirely possible because the designers of Dark Souls were kind of on record as saying that they purposely left long run-ups between checkpoints and the bosses to give you time to reflect on the boss fight. Whoops. Okay, that time I just didn't realize I had my... I'm fucking up again. That's it. I've lost it. I gotta go. I gotta stop for the night. Yeah, so I do agree with that is a possibility that they might have done that. Because they were cognizant of it in this game. That said, the one thing you don't want to ask a group of players to do is to stop playing the game. Okay? In general, it's nice. It is good to have that little rest period of take some time to reflect on what you did wrong and think about it. But the blood vial farming is way too much distraction for a game that is based on trial and error. It's just a little bit too time consuming, and it asks people to go back to areas of the game that they... Because you're going to go back to an area of the game that you are already intimately familiar with. You're going to go back to Yarnum, right? That's where you're going to go to farm your blood vials. No matter what, that's where you're going. Because that's where you get your blood vials, and that's where you get your bullets. So it takes you away from the progress that you're making in the game, and takes you away from the exploration of the game, and it takes you away from, you know, trial and error, in order to just make you kind of run around like a robot through an area you already know. There's nothing particularly satisfying in that experience. So, while it is a possibility that they might have done it on purpose for exactly that reason, I think it was a really bad decision on their part. And I can see Baka does not like me saying that, and quite frankly, I don't care. It is a drag, you know, especially because after 3 or 4 fights on the boss, you know, that's it. That's all you get. Some of the bosses in Dark Souls and Bloodborne can take a dozen attempts. You know, you really want to stop people from playing the game for 3 or 4 times to go back and farm in an area they're already familiar with. That's a terrible design decision. And honestly, I found it a drag because I didn't really notice it until I was streaming the game and realized that as I was having trouble with the Blood-Starved Beast, discovering that I had to spend time off camera farming resources just so that I could make another good on-camera attempt. Why did my jump go off? I don't even care. Yeah, no, it's not a fun gameplay experience. Arthur HS is saying, I think maybe they intend for you to buy them from the item shop, and that is also a possibility. But in that case, because remember, every time you die, you're dropping your souls, and if you're fighting a boss and doing a run-up to a boss, you're not picking up too many more souls in the interim. So you also become starved for blood echoes. Baka is saying if you're really bad, it's really good. No, if you're really bad, it's frustrating as hell. And it drives you away from the game. Because nobody likes doing repetitive, dull tasks that have no challenge or engagement left in them. Alright, so... You know, and the one thing, by the way, if you're failing repeatedly against a boss, the one thing you are not doing while you're farming is practicing against that boss. Okay, you're not getting any better at that boss when the game makes you stop and farm. The other thing, too, like, I don't know enough about the Chalice dungeons yet because I've only just sort of discovered them. But I think that there might also be an intention to encourage you to go and farm through your little procedurally generated Chalice dungeons. And if that's the case... Oh, I'm not even talking about what I'm doing here. Okay, so... Can I auto-target the guy who's, like, right in front of me? No? Okay. That gate, by the way, that I opened... Whoops. I forgot you had a second swing in you, dude. Alright. I got distracted. That guy ran all the way up the stairs to come and get me. So by the way, that gate, is this area of Undeadburg here. So once again, the game is rewarding us with a shortcut. Which is another, just a staple of exploration-based gameplay. The thing too with like the procedurally generated dungeons, I find that also a really misguided thing, because one of the absolute the biggest strengths of the Souls, the entire Souls line, I mean even Dark Souls 2, which is a little bit weaker in general, is, and I'm going even back to Demon Souls, is the scenario design of the game. It is a very carefully designed and well thought out, crafted experience. As I even demonstrated tonight, just the progression in the Darkroot Garden of the way you're introduced to enemies and then asked to get better with them, and then they use them in more and more interesting ways. That's an example of something that you can't do in a procedurally generated environment. Okay, that's careful game design at work. You know, it's, and I mean, when you get down to it, you know, if you want to talk about the primary design of Dark Souls, the entire game of Dark Souls is about teaching you to play Dark Souls. Okay, that's what Dark Souls is continuously doing. It is teaching you how to play it. Okay, in 1,000 different subtle ways. You can't do that in a procedurally generated environment. By definition, that's not the core engagement of a procedurally generated environment anyway. I don't know why they decided to include that crap. And I really hope it's optional, because it's something that I have very little interest in actually pursuing. Once I realized that's what was going on in there inside that Chalice dungeon, I was really kind of bummed out. I'm like, this is something that I really have no interest in exploring. I hate procedurally generated games. I am a psycho for good game design. I love good game design.
Somebody.
Oh.
Please let me.
By the way, meanwhile...
Anybody, help me. Unlock the door. Damn, I'm finished. How did this ever happen?
Now, earlier on, we bought the Undeadburg Residence Key, which allowed us to get a treasure chest up above. But it also allows us to unlock this room. And here we find another NPC.
Brilliant. You opened the door for me. Thank you. I'm saved. I thought I might never escape. I am Griggs of Vinheim, a sorcerer of the school. I am much obliged for your assistance. Thanks to you, I may now resume my travels. Oh, hello. I'm fine. I will rest a while, then return to Firelink Shrine. I have my sorcery, and I will be more cautious next time. Besides, I have an important task at hand.
So this is Griggs of Vinheim, as he said. He is a sorcerer. And he will start this... Whoops. I was trying to pick up the pillage.
Oh, hello.
Pillage corpse. And in another reality, and this must be particularly freaky for Griggs, because I can't help but feel that, like, he's sharing the room with the corpse of a guy, of a sorcerer that died, that may or may not be him from another reality. Now I am gonna go ahead and trigger. Like, actually, no, I'll show off because this is kind of funny. All right, I'll show off once. So behind this door, there's an enemy. Whoops, I'm not quite catching him. And with a straight attack, with a straight-on attack, You can actually clip through the door and hit him. I don't think I killed him. And then he backs away from the door. So after you reach a certain point here, the doors pop open and enemies fly out. Oh, right. I forgot these guys can parry and then completely fail to riposte. So you have to fight these the hollow thieves here. And there's the guy that I stabbed through the door. It's just, I find it kind of funny that you can actually stab them through the door. And if you stab him through the door and kill him, the door will still pop open. Even though he's not there to pop it open. So the doors are obviously spring-loaded. I mean, that's the only explanation. There is a pressure plate and the doors are spring-loaded. And then the gimmick's so nice, they did it twice. This time with 100% more puppy. There is, I'm gonna say one of the big problems with Dark Souls, is it has a hell of a lot of trouble with horizontal attacks, on different vertical planes. So, like, if the horizontal slash, if you're not on exactly the same vertical plane as the enemy, it has a lot of trouble figuring out whether you're supposed to connect or not. I lost track of the third thief. The other thing I kind of forgot about this game is that enemies do not give up in this game. Like in Bloodborne, they will leave you alone after a little while. It's like, okay, we made our point. Go away. But in this game, they will chase you, pretty much forever. And I can't remember, I'm pretty sure there's items in one of the, yeah, okay. But then again, this is again, where, exploration-based gameplay, you're gonna explore every room. What we now see, which we're not gonna engage quite yet, is what many people, you know what, I will engage it. There's a reasonably good chance I'm not going to beat it on the first try. Just going to say that right now. But this becomes a brick wall for many, many people. And this was actually the rage quit moment for a couple of my friends. Is the Capra Demon. Okay. This is a particularly nasty boss fight where you are... Crap. I got pinned against the wall. Yeah. And it's one of those things where I said, remember how I said Dark Souls kind of sometimes breaks its own rules a little bit? The nasty thing about the Capra Demon boss fight is that it is completely about misdirection. Okay? The first bit of misdirection is in the fact that there is absolutely no warning. Like the other bosses that we've fought in the game, they have an introduction. From the Taurus Demon jumping down off the ceiling, the Asylum Demon, he jumps down out of the ceiling the first time, and then the second time we deal with him, we see him from above, and we have time to do a plunging attack before we have to deal with him. Oh, wait. Wrong button. Why do I always have so much trouble turning off my bow? That's my biggest problem. I can't figure out how to put away the bow. The bell gargoyles, they have that introductory video. The Capra Demon, you step through the door, and then the Capra Demon just charges right at you and slashes you. It's like, fuck you. Run, slash. In addition to that, he's got his two little buddies. He's got two little dogs with him. And those two little dogs actually... Crap. Those two little dogs actually make the fight a million times harder. And you don't realize it, because obviously you want to focus on the big guy. And those dogs run circles around you. The key to the whole fight is to get the high ground right away. That is to get the stairs as quickly as possible. And I didn't... That's what I was going for, by the way, when I got caught up on the other dog and the terrain. I was actually going for the stairs. Aren't you an acrobatic little bastard? Crap. I really hate these guys. Honestly, the whole of Lower Undeadburg. I know, you know, like, people hate the Blight Town, or, you know, you get the people who... some people are really opposed to the Crystal Caves. Anne Orlando is a big area that a lot of people will hate. But for me, it's this whole sequence here. Lower Undeadburg and the friggin' Capra Demon. I hate it. And I've never been good at it. Yeah, the chat's talking about ways that you can, like, cheese the fight, but, you know, again, like, you can apparently throw poison. There's a poison item that you get a hold on later on. It's basically just a pile of dung, and you can actually use the fact that you can throw them through the fog gate to poison the Capra Demon early. But the real... Fuck! I got really held up there. This is not going well. Oh, and now I got a back attack. I sort of pointed this out last time, that as you progress through the game, the enemies get more and more of the same verbs that you have. So, for example, these guys have both parrying and back attacks. If you let them do the back attack, they will climb up and slit your throat. If you attack them at the wrong moment, they will parry your attack and then riposte. So they have some of the same verbs you do. The other bit about the misdirection involved in this fight is that there is a good checkpoint for it, but it's not immediately obvious, because clearly, you know, the fog gate says, oh, go in this direction and progress. You know, and that's what the game has sort of taught us. The fog gate means forward progress. You kind of picked a stupid time to drink. But if we ignore the fog gate and explore this path a little bit more first. We find the locked door. Find an item. And then we'll actually find this circular tower with an archer on a scaffolding up there. I like that he built the little scaffolding to stand on. Like the stairs weren't good enough for that archer. No, the archer needed his own little platform. The tower sort of tops out there. But... And then we find this passage.
You still have your senses about you. Then why won't you buy some of my moss? I need your souls. This is a wonderful place, don't you think? We have water, moss, moisture, these nice iron bars. I like it here, I really do. Nothing good ever happened to me in life, but now that I'm undead, I've never been happier.
Now remember that each of the undead...
Come to this land at a bad time. There are nothing but hollows in these parts, save for me, of course. You're undead too, aren't you? You be careful then.
Okay.
Go down along the side to reach the decks of the undead berg. Only unkempt crooks and liars to be found there. Hardly a place for a lady like Miss, but who knows?
Okay, I think we've exhausted her dialogue options. Now she will sell us the dung piles that I had previously mentioned, poison throwing knives, a few other little odds and ends. Particularly the moss clumps, which is what she was referring to, which become rather significant later. I don't know if she has a name actually. Odog is pointing out the creepy laughing. Remember that each of the undead that we encounter are there to sort of remind us how tenuous everybody's grasp on their sanity actually is. Okay? All of the undead that we encounter are close to losing themselves, to going hollow. They're losing their memories, they're losing their sanity, they're losing their humanity. So even the undead who are mostly keeping it together, they still have that sort of... like, they still have the unsettling laugh at the end of what they say. And by the way, you might notice that we are out here, back where we started, at Firelink Shrine again. Which, returning here actually makes the Capra Demon fight a lot easier, because you don't have to run through Undeadburg. And in fact, we don't ever have to go through Lower Undeadburg again. We've gotten everything out of it that we're going to get out of it. But I did want to show off, like, the game shunts you into that Capra Demon fight. And now if you keep bashing your head against it, it can become extremely frustrating. And like I said, I know a couple of people who I sold on this game quit playing the game because of the Capra Demon. But now that we're back here, we can talk to some of the NPCs who are around. So let's, actually first, let's see if our friend the Crestfallen Warrior has anything new to say.
Why, what a surprise.
Now that we've rung the bell, because we haven't been back here in a while.
Oh, somebody rang the bell. Wait, was it you? You never give up, do you? I don't know how you do it. Well, don't stop now. Only one more. But it's going to be suicide.
Now notice that he's got this sort of ongoing theme in everything he says. This is a repeat of... That's a repeat of before. But he's got this sort of recurring theme in the stuff he says about how I don't know how people keep going on. He said that about the Firelink Maiden here, and he said that about you. Okay? It sort of marks the beginning of a character arc for him.
Ah.
And this is Lautrec, the guy who was imprisoned in the church.
Please, accept it. I am grateful to you for freeing me. Not enough for you? Well, let's not be greedy now.
Now, I think it was mentioned last time by the chat that he has a very sinister sound to him.
By the Lord.
I'm not going to give anything away, but yeah, there's a reason that he sounds that way.
Slipping. But there are methods. Most fools have more humanity than they know what to do with. Now, who do you imagine will make the best use of it? Hmm?
So, there he just sort of...
You again. What is it? Our futures are murky. Let's not be too friendly now.
We're going to leave him alone for now, because he will have an important role to play. He will have an important story later. most of the NPCs in the game actually have a story arc that kind of bounces in and out of yours.
Oh, hello. I regret meeting you under such compromising circumstances. At least
And
we
the thing
both
is,
made
to
it back
really
unscathed.
experience them, in a lot of places, you
hello.
have to do some pretty significant. You have to do some pretty significant digging. Okay. So here's Petrus. I don't think Petrus is saying anything new.
I will teach you.
Yeah.
Very well. Through.
He's just talking about the undead mission again and the kindling. Now, before we go back to the Capra Demon, I am going to take another detour. Sort of an interesting detour. And again, this is one that this is a pain in the ass to figure out. Well, actually, there's one step in the whole process that is hard to figure out. So first of all, when we first started, I never dropped down this little elevator shaft here. But there is a little hidden area of items here, including a Morning Star and Talisman, which implies religion. Cracked red eye orbs, which are very interesting. The Morning Star and the Talisman imply a cleric or a priest. And then there's this, Lloyd's Talisman, which has a really interesting item description to it, because... Okay. Allfather Lloyd basically is the head of the Order of the White. Basically, our organization of which Petrus is a member. And they are, among other things, they are undead hunters. And one of the tools that they developed was this magic talisman, Lloyd's Talisman, specifically developed by Allfather Lloyd. But it prevents an undead from using Estus flasks for a limited amount of time. It's actually, if you plan to play competitive multiplayer. You know what? Why am I dicking around with you guys? If you plan to play competitive multiplayer, the Lloyd's Talisman can sometimes be useful to stop the players that you're hunting down from using their Estus flasks. But in reality, not super useful. And a lot of players will not actually use their Estus flasks as kind of a point of honor in the PvP, the competitive multiplayer, that you don't use Estus flasks. Especially because the invader can't. I've stopped here because a new development here in this temple is the sound of snoring. Just throwing that out there. And that bird is still up above. I actually love the animation on the bird, by the way, because it is very, very, very bird-like. They captured that sort of sudden jerking bird movements that if you ever watched a bird just sitting, and they do tend to jerk around a lot and just like have those very quick darting movements to them. I just want to compliment that. So now that the elevator is running, there is another interesting thing that you can do. And the only reason I stumbled on this was because of, I guess, like, Metroid experience and some, like, some of the 3D Zelda games, where slipping out of an elevator is sometimes useful. And if you slip out of the elevator here where there's a floor, you find this spot. And there's a couple of things going on. First of all, there's an item over there to the left. And then directly ahead is this buttress, and that opening. And if you look through the opening, you can just sort of see a set of stairs running around the inside of the tower. Now, the key is to just platform over here. And a little bit unfair to expect you to do this, Because this game is not a platformer, and then every so often it does ask you to do some really obnoxious platforming. So the first thing we can do is we can get to this item, which is the Undead Asylum key. Now you might remember the Undead Asylum as the tutorial area that we started in. Which we haven't so far been able to get back to because we were carried across the world by a giant bird. Which brings us to now. And there's a very particular reason that I go back to the Undead Asylum now before I go any further. Okay, so if we walk up here, we find the bird's nest, and it gives us the option to curl up like a ball. Hit the X button, curl up like a ball. Okay, and you can stand up. But kind of like the Earthbound, wait 3 minutes underneath the waterfall to get in sort of a thing. If you stand up, you will break this sequence, whereas if you stay huddled up, the bird because, like in real life, birds are in the habit of suddenly going into their nest, picking up their eggs, and flying them to other parts of the world. It's just a thing that birds do. Obviously, I'm bullshitting. There is absolutely no reason to expect that would happen. But obviously, the bird has two nests, and cycles its eggs between the two nests for reasons best known only to the bird. And when we get to... There is an area of the game called the Painted World of Ariamis. And when we get there, we're going to start to talk about maybe what that bird might actually be about. Okay, because we are not done with the bird imagery in this game just yet. Oh shit, I actually... Baka12 is saying I don't recommend going back to the Undead Asylum at such a low level. Neat. And yet here I am. I am going back to the Undead Asylum for one particular thing. Okay, I'm not going to try and take out the boss of the Undead Asylum just yet. We'll come back for it later. But I fully recommend going back to the Undead Asylum for a couple of reasons. Is the bird the word? Of course, bird is the word. Bird is always the word. Ah, I missed the roll. Alright. Whoop. I knew pulling it off twice flawlessly was too good to be true. One of the problems with the jumping mechanic in this game is that in order to jump, you have to be running first of all. Well, I always take the wrong turn there. You have to be running first of all with the circle button to dash. And then in order to jump, you have to take your finger off the dash button and then press the dash button again immediately after. So in an area where you don't have... Whoops. I fell. So, in an area where you don't have much room to get a run up, it can be really tricky to get up to... Fuck! Now I'm getting annoyed. He came back. Ooh, okay, okay. Alright. I had my flurry of blows, you had yours. I know there's another skeleton up above me. Because there were two following me. So there's another one. Yep, see, I knew you were here. Oh, great. And now your buddy's coming. I hear him in the water. Look, guys, I'm just not that into you, okay? Alright. It is a little bit more distracting trying to read the chat. I really do miss... I love the integration of the Twitch on PS4. It's so much easier to just stream and play and engage with the chat. I hate, like, ignoring the chat the way I'm doing, but it's really hard to tear my eyes away. Oh, come on, again? It's really hard to tear my eyes away and look down at what people are saying. I would certainly not consider playing a game blind like this. Streaming it blind, which is kind of why I stopped streaming Dark Souls blind years ago. Because it was hard to pay attention to the chat, and I really do... I want to engage with people. Also, like I said, I sort of implied, but the Dark Souls fans who kept drifting in, and fortunately that interest is sort of dried up now, but the Dark Souls fans who kept drifting in made it an absolutely miserable experience, because Dark Souls fans cannot shut the hell up. They cannot shut the hell up about what they know about the game. They cannot shut the hell up. Like, and what drives me crazy, too, is all that the tittering little tee-hee, I can't wait until he gets to this area, I can't wait, you know, like, oh, he's coming up on this big thing, and then there's just that little, I'm not going to say what it is, but I sure know what it is, because it's all very obnoxious, and it made it an absolute miserable experience to play, because I avoided all spoilers for Dark Souls. I avoided knowing anything about the game other than what I found out for myself by playing the game, which is exactly how I'm playing Bloodborne now. I don't want to know anything about it other than what I can work out. And almost everything I'm talking about, I found for myself in this game. It took out, I'm not going to lie, I think I had... My first playthrough of this game was something like 70 hours, I think. Because I literally covered every square inch of the game, but that's what gets me off in games anyway. So, now here we are back at the Undead Asylum. And I'm just going to... Until I've rested a bonfire. I'll show it off in a second. But not until I've rested a bonfire. Right now, I am just going to purposely avoid the center of the room. And now we'll get to the bonfire. So this is the tutorial area where we started the game. And yada yada yada. So now if we were to walk through the middle of the room, we find that the floor has been weakened. And we meet... Asylum Demon Mark II. Who, with the lightning spear, if not for his giant area attacks, you could deal with him right now. Again, it would just take a lot of time, and I'm just not that good. What's interesting about him is his name is given as the Stray Demon, but there's there's been suggestions that there might have been a translation error and that his name should have been more like the spare demon or the extra demon. It's kind of funny because you can actually see that boss arena when you get out of your cell. If you go back and watch the first episode I did of this, when we came out of our cell, we could look into his cell and see him moving around in there. And the implication between that name and the fact that he's kept down there in that cell is that he's sort of like an extra demon that they keep around in case something happens to their first demon. So now this is the Get Your Shield area, and it has been replaced with a Black Knight. And we're going to go ahead and... Well, he does get his shield up a little bit. Wait. I don't have a shield equipped. Alright. Fighting him in the water is death, because you have, like, no mobility there. I'm going to soften him up a little bit, because, again, the trick to him is you just know his attack pattern, and then you just use back attacks. But I'm just going to let lightning do most of my talking here. Because obviously the terrain sort of works against you a little bit. Oh shit. And I got pinned between him and a wall, and then my character actually, like, teleported and sort of I guess because the collision detection was a little off, my character actually teleported across the hallway there to die. I got shunted out the... Okay, my dodge roll just didn't work that time. Alright, we're just gonna lightning zap this guy to death. Hate to do it that way, but... But what's interesting is that the idea of, like, if you accept that whole thing about stray demon, spare demon, whatever, it is actually possible to do this. To aim the spell without... If not for the water, I would fight him in here. Whoops. He's gonna wreck me. Key is to get him at just the right distance. Uh-oh. No. Pinned up against the wall. Alright, I'm not going to make this look pretty, but I am going to make him dead. That's all that matters. See, I used to be better at that trick. Like, if you know the exact distance of his attack, you can sort of trick it out so that your lightning goes off just as he drops his shield. I will also say that there's a couple of tricks to actually making... to aiming the lightning bolt. Number one is you can actually line up the shot with the sniping... of the bow, and then cancel out of using the bow. I'm gonna bring this guy downstairs with me, because we didn't talk about who this is. You might remember this guy as the guy who told me the undead prophecy and gave me the Estus flask. And then said, hey, you should get away from me because I'm going to die and then I'm going to go crazy and I don't want to hurt you. And now he has completely gone hollow. He is way tough for me, but that's at this particular level. That's okay. Okay. I have a feeling if I were more confident in my parrying ability, I could make much shorter work of this guy, but I'm just not. Oh. Alright, maybe. Oh, see, he keeps using the kicking. Asshole. Fine. I also don't know why he insists on rolling, because he obviously does not have a build around footwork and rolling. But there we go. And he leaves us his crest shield. Anywho. So now he was dead, and we should just check out his crest shield quickly. Shield of a nameless knight, likely a high-ranked knight of Astora, one of the enchanted blue shields. So, he's an interesting character too, because, like, I think again, and this is something that I only have a vague knowledge of, because again, one of the problems with absolutely avoiding all information until you have beaten the game is afterwards there's so much to check out that you don't really bother with it. It's like, okay, I pretty much know my stuff. So as much research as I do into other games after I've played them and beaten them, or games that I'm going to stream, I haven't really bothered to do so much into Dark Souls. But if I recall correctly, Oscar was actually intended to have a longer plot in the original game, and it got cut for whatever reason. There was, I want to say there was some sort of suggestion that he was competing with you to be the chosen undead. But I could be wrong on that. Like, because remember the prophecy originally came from his family. But if you go back to the idea of that somebody purposely put the undead demon there, the demon there at the door of the asylum, then you can sort of get into this idea that this whole asylum thing was actually not so much a prison as it was a proving ground to kind of find the chosen undead, the one who would fix whatever is wrong, which, and remember, we're still not entirely sure yet just what is wrong with the world. We just know that it's broken. And that the undead are going to be the one to fix it. The one undead. The undead who rings the two bells is going to be the one to fix it. So, in that respect, if you set up this thing that basically murders undead that try to escape, and undead who die too many times go insane and become, like, uselessly hollow, then you get this idea that it's basically that... Ah, fuck. That maybe this whole thing was just a mill to grind out the chosen undead by murdering, murdering into madness every undead that didn't make it. And in that respect, then the Nameless Knight, who I'm told his name is Oscar, which, sure, fine. As far as I'm concerned, it isn't, because the game's not going to tell me that. That's like Dumbledore is gay. Oh, is he? How do we know? Because some author said so? Well, what does the author know about it? Nothing that happened suggested that Dumbledore actually was gay or that him being gay was even remotely important. Dumbledore's sexuality is unstated. It is unknown. As far as I know, he's completely asexual. He doesn't give a fuck about fucking. But whatever. No, I'm sorry, that guy is the Nameless Knight because that's what his shield says it is. Alright. I'm gonna get my ass kicked here. I am a little bit low for this, but I did want to come back for this also. So if the knight kills me, I'll come back for him later. I don't feel like keeping this up. One of the side effects of choosing to do the faith build is that until you can ascend your weapon to a divine weapon, you are sort of at a little bit of a disadvantage compared to other builds. Raka is saying maybe he is bisexual. It doesn't matter. Like Dumbledore has no sexuality. My point is just, if it's not in the piece of work, then you could say whatever you want. Even if you're the author, it just doesn't matter. The only thing that matters about something's backstory... Oh, right, there's a boulder. The only thing that matters about backstory is what actually makes it into the story. So, fantastic. His name could be anything, but the game's not sharing it with me, so I don't know. Now, that being said, there's a lot in this game that is not explicitly stated, but can be conjectured. And then there's a lot, too, that you just sort of have to guess at. Like that whole, the idea of the demons being there to sort of test undead, to weed out all the ones that aren't the chosen undead. That's just me bullshitting. I don't know. Could be. It makes sense given the world, but again, the game didn't say anything explicit about that. And even the whole translation error thing. I forgot who I was fighting here. Stop it. Anyway. I'm about to end it here for the night, because it's now been over 2 hours, and tomorrow I have an opening shift, so once again, I've got to get up really early. But I did come back here for 2 specific items. One is the Rusted Iron Ring, and the other one, which is an insanely useful item in the areas that we're about to visit. I did that to avoid falling in the pit and getting killed by that boss monster again, because we're gonna go ahead and return to Firelink now, and that's where we're gonna end. But one of the Rusted Iron Ring is insanely useful, and what it does is to reduce the See, it says, like, this iron ring was used to shackle the guilty. It's terribly rusted and faintly stained with blood. Those who find this strange ring to their liking will be pleased. Gain footing on poor ground, such as swamps, which is sort of a roundabout way of saying it negates the effect of walking in the water. The slowdown effect in knee deep. Basically, if you're wandering in knee deep water or deeper, why am I doing so badly now? I mean, I'm not great at this game, but I'm usually... but I haven't been this bad. Where did you come from now? Yeah, but so the rusted iron ring actually negates the effect of water. The other item that I found, yeah, is the peculiar doll. There was once an abomination who had no place in this world. She clutched this doll so tightly and eventually was drawn into a cold and lonely painted world. That is actually the key to an optional side area, and I wanted to have it before I get there. But, again, it has been pointed out that the Undead Asylum is a place that you don't go back to this early. And while I would generally agree, the Rusted Iron Ring is so useful in the next two areas, and then so useless throughout the rest of the game, that it's sort of really badly placed. Okay? It is a reward for exploration. I'll give it that. And, you know, I'm all for rewarding people going off the beaten path with neat items that make life easier for them. Didn't mean to step off the ledge there, but whatever. But it's placed in an area that you really shouldn't be at the level you're at. And the rusted, because the next two areas are very waterlogged areas. That is the depths and Blighttown. And after that, there's really no significant use. A little bit in the Dark Route, I guess. But there's really no significant use for the Rusted Iron Ring. So it should have been placed somewhere else. Somewhere where it would have done a little bit more good. You know, somewhere where it would have been a little bit easier to find before wandering down into those areas. Whoops, I don't have enough souls to repair my armor. That should be enough. So we're just gonna fix my armor, and I'm gonna call it a night here. Whoop. Repair equipment. Whoops. I am really tired. Alright, so we repair my equipment, and I'm gonna dump all the stuff that I found in the bottomless box so that it's not in the way. I found the mail breaker, which unsharpened but pointed solid. That's actually a pretty good description of a mail breaker, all things considered. They actually did a lot of work on the weapons in this game, both in terms of describing them and in terms of emulating the actual combat styles that you would use with the weapons and their various advantages and disadvantages. To the point where I think any tabletop role-playing game player really should give this game a playthrough just to get a sense of what many of these weapons were like. It's not 100% accurate. I mean, it does take some creative liberties just like anything, but it does at least sort of illustrate, you know, the different fighting styles with things like polearms, swords, axes, and their strengths and their weaknesses.